Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Donnie Epley, Director of Membership and Technology for the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials. This is the second presentation in a series of three for the preliminary fall seminar sessions. Tonight, we're pleased to have with us TJ Halliday, who's the Director of Learning and Development for IBO. He's been a member of IBO since 1985. He has officiated the Maine High School Basketball Championships for 36 years and Division III college basketball for 20 years. He officiated in the postseason tournament for 25 years, including numerous state championship games. He is currently the Maine coordinator of officials and a site supervisor for the Maine postseason tournaments. He also serves as a co-coordinator of interpreters for IBO Inc. Without further ado, TJ.
Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. We're really excited about this week. This week is going to be the week we have our national conference in Portland, Maine. We hope everybody who's in driving distance of Portland is registered and ready to go. If you're not, please feel free to make arrangements and come on down. The seminar is free. So if you're in driving distance, we hope to see you in Portland this weekend. Tonight, we're going to talk about a topic called mastering position adjustments in coverage areas. Hopefully this is something that's near and dear to your heart, because we think this really is something that's really important to us as far as understanding how to apply our rules. If we understand what our coverage areas are and how to make position adjustments to see the plays we need to see, we'll be much more effective in applying those rules. We have to think about what our priorities are. And really our number one priority on a basketball court is to make accurate rulings. It's the most important thing we do. And when you start thinking about those kind of things, we have to understand what goes into making those accurate rulings. The goal of our floor mechanics, with everything we do with our manuals, really is to get our officials to be in the right place at the right time to make an accurate ruling. Every one of those pages is geared towards getting you in the right place, making the right ruling, and communicating that ruling effectively. So if you're not someone who spends a great deal of time in the manual, we encourage you to be there. Encourage you to get in there, because it's really chock full of information that will help you master the rules of our game and the mechanics, the floor mechanics of our game. We have to get to the point where we're equating proper floor mechanics with accurate rulings. I can take the best official in the country. If I put them in 4 angles, I'm going to minimize their ability to make rulings. We have to understand that no matter how good or bad you are as an official, you are the very best official you can be if you know how to work hard, get the proper angle, and see through offense and defense. We also need to understand that you really can't be a great official without mastering floor mechanics. We hear this term a lot. We hear people, oh, that person's a great official. That if you're saying someone's a great official, hopefully you're equating being great with the ability to get on the basketball court and make proper adjustments to see through offense and defense. All right, tonight's agenda, we're going to do 3 basic things. First thing we're going to talk about is some basic terminology and definitions. We're going to talk about primary coverage areas and secondary coverage areas. We're going to talk about what the difference between an open look and a straight line view is. We're going to talk about competitive matchups. So hopefully we're going to teach you the difference between engaged and unengaged competitive matchups. Then we're going to talk about another concept that's fairly new to us called potential matchups. And we'll get into that in more detail coming up. Then we're going to start applying these principles into some very specific play situations. We're going to break this presentation down into 2 parts. First of all, we're going to talk about the lead coverage areas and the position adjustments. We'll do that by defining where the initial starting position is. We'll talk a little bit about the ABC concept. And then we'll put it all together on how to officiate drives to the basket from the lead's perspective. Next, we will cover perimeter coverage and position adjustments. Mainly, one of the biggest decisions we make as both center and trail, whether it be crew or 2 or crew or 3, is how to get over or under matchups. We use that term a lot, and we haven't done much information. We haven't put much information out there how to make that decision. I'm going to try to address that tonight on how do you make the decision whether you're going to go over a matchup or under a matchup. And there may be people on this call or in this Zoom session that don't even understand that terminology. Hopefully by the end of the evening, you understand those 2 terms and how to effectively make that decision on what position adjustment do you need to make to get the angle. We want to make you as efficient and as effective as possible. Sometimes a position adjustment might be a step or two. Sometimes it might be 4 or 5 steps. So we're going to show you some of those concepts and make sure you understand how to make those decisions right. Then we're going to cover drives to the basket again from the center and trail perspective. We're going to bounce back between crew of 2 and crew of 3. I'll try to be very intentional and obvious about that because I don't want people to be confused. But the concepts we talk about tonight really do apply to both crew of 2 and crew of 3. I'm going to show some different examples on both, but I'll try to make sure it's clear. And we're also going to talk about not only perimeter coverage as far as working to get open looks on jump shooters, we're also going to apply some of the principles to screening coverage. So hopefully we'll apply some of these concepts in some play situations with some videos coming up. Let's start off with the basics. Primary coverage areas. For most of my careers, most of my career in basketball, these graphics right here were the key to the pregame conference. You get in a locker room, whether it be crew of 2, crew of 3, and you talk about your coverage areas. You talk about, you know, what things you're going to be looking for and that kind of thing. And we focus pretty much on just an area. And I think that gives us sometimes a little skewed view on how to officiate the game. And I think it's time that we evolve past just primary coverage areas and start asking ourselves some questions. Do you position adjust effectively within your primary coverage area? Are you focused on the correct matchups? Do you know the difference between an engaged matchup and an unengaged matchup? Do you know when and how to expand your view into the secondary coverage area? This concept of secondary coverage area has not been around very much. We probably put this in the manual 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know of another manual in basketball that has this kind of concept, but we're really trying to cultivate a teamwork approach to officiating. And if you focus primarily and only and exclusively on your primary coverage area, there's going to be aspects of our game that we're going to fall short on. And so we need to find out when I do expand, how to expand, and when I do expand, what am I going to look at to be effective. The goal of floor mechanics. Let's talk about this a little bit. The goal is to put you in a situation where you open look view. This is a very important term. This is a term we've been trying to use more and more over the last few years. It's being in the correct position that is critical in making accurate rulings. If you've got views like this, where you're seeing between offense and defense, this is what we call an open look. So you're seeing between the 2 players, you see daylight. This is a perfect way to view these plays. Now you can best assess any potential contact between these 2 players. In contrast, if you have a straight line view, you're going to have views like this. If you look at the picture on the left, you see the official is directly behind the offense. And one of the things that we look at, if you're an official and you can see the ball handler's number on the back of their uniform, you're what they call straight line. You look at the play on the right, what's happening between the player in the white and the player in the blue? We really can't tell from this angle. There's a player right here in blue that we can't really see. Whose arm is that? So this is not a great angle to view play. So we're trying to get in a situation where we're creating more open looks for our officials. We all have to understand that we all get straight line. As hard as you work, and if you're a gazelle out there and you work really hard, you still will get straight line. It happens to all of us. But what do you do about it? I probably see 100 games of basketball every winter, and I can watch someone officiate and tell a lot about them by what they do when they get straight line. Do you accept the straight line position? Are you okay with it? Or do you move to improve? Which official do you think was going to perform better on that basketball game? The one that works hard, moves to improve, or the one that accepts a straight line position? That question is obvious. So it's one of those things we look for as observers. We look for people who know how to move to improve. Great officials never accept a straight line position. They're working their tail off 100% of the time to find an angle between the offense and defense. All right, I want you to watch the center official on this play. The center official is going to be this near sideline, going to come into your screen, and watch how they react perimeter ball movement. See the center come in, the ball's reversed right in front of him. He is exactly straight lined right now. This young lady is going to shoot, and he never moves. Okay. Now, if you're observing this official, what feedback would you have for him? What opportunities did he have? Did he have an opportunity to get an open angle? One of the best things you can do is recognize when there's a potential matchup in front of you. You can see the current matchup when the ball gets reversed. The ball is right here in the midcourt area. This center official should recognize right now there's a potential matchup right in front of him. And if this ball reverses his way, what angles can he get? As that ball is being passed from here to here, do you think he could have taken a step or two down and looked back through? The answer is yes. Okay, so if he had taken that 1 or 2 steps down, when that jump shot was taken, he could have been right down here and looking right through the offense and defense. And those are the kind of things we're looking for as far as angles. So how do we master floor mechanics? What is a good open look? Are you focusing on the wrong matchup? Those are important questions. So how do we focus on the correct matchup? We first have to understand what the difference is between a competitive matchup, actually an engaged matchup and an unengaged matchup. A competitive matchup is opponents who are actively competing against one another for the ball and or position on the basketball court. All 3 of these pictures are examples of competitive matchups. So some involve the ball, some don't. Basically, what you're saying to yourself, are these players within fouling distance of one another? If they are, they're competitive. All right. Are these players on the left close enough to foul one another? The answer is yes. That's an engaged matchup. Compared to the ones on the right, number 2 in green and number 15 in white or number 3 in white. They're not close enough to foul one another. So we understand the difference between these two concepts. It's going to help us understand if we're going to look in our primary coverage area, we'll move into our secondary coverage area. And how we do that is we work inside our primary coverage area, then move outside. So if you've got an engaged competitive matchup, whether with the ball or without the ball, inside your PCA, you take it. What you do is you get an open look, you make a position adjustment, like this trail this new official did. He made the position adjustment, look between the offense and defense. Okay, that's what you have to do. You have engaged matchups for primary coverage area, you got to take it, especially when they involve the ball. But if your PCA is empty, do you take a break? Do you not do anything? Or do you recognize the possibilities? What we generally now encourage is, if you've got an empty PCA or a PCA full of matchups that aren't competitive, the best thing to do is think about where my secondary coverage area and where can I help. Example here, the trail could expand into the lead's primary if the lead has a bunch of activity in front of them. Pick up the ball, maybe screening activity. There's a bunch of activity over there. I have an empty PCA. What can I do to help? Same token, if the trail has a bunch of activity in their situation, their primary coverage area, it's okay for the lead to find that nearest competitive matchup. All right. And if you've been watching basketball the last few years, this is very typical of our game today. Look where all the players are. The game is moving further and further away from the basket. A lot more 3-point attempts, more high post screening, a lot more hedge defenders. And you can be the lead official all night long and be very lonely down there in the end line. And what are you going to do? You're going to take the night off, or you're going to find that nearest competitive matchup you can help us out on. If you look at this picture, you've got the center. They've got a bunch of activity in front of them. They've got to take. This trail is going to take the ball. So if you're the lead official on this play, what are you going to do? Rather than taking a break, find that nearest competitive matchup, get an angle, and officiate off ball. All right. I often ask officials, are you afraid to look outside your PCA? We have a lot of people that are very much ingrained. I hear it in pre-game conference. Stay within your primary coverage area. Stay in your primary coverage area. And for the most part, that can ring true when you're talking about on-ball activity. But when you're talking about being a team, sometimes going outside your primary coverage area can be a huge help. We've all worked with this person. Don't call in my area. This is a barrier to teamwork. I've heard it in pregame conferences. I've heard, veteran officials tell young officials, I'll take care of my area, you take your area. That's not really the best message. I don't know about you, but I know there's been many times where I've been overwhelmed with my primary coverage area, and hope someone could help me out. Maybe I got screened on something, maybe I got overwhelmed. And if there was someone to take a different look at a different angle and help me out, that'd been perfect. So it's very important that we do that. So let me ask you a question. What's more important to observe? You're in your primary coverage area, no matter if you're a lead, center, or trail. If you've got the option between an unengaged matchup inside your PCA and an engaged matchup outside your PCA, what would you look at? Hopefully the answer is obvious. For many of our officials that are watching the game, people are afraid to go to that secondary coverage area. But if we're going to be successful in some of the play situations we're going to talk about, we need you to be willing to call. Go outside your primary coverage area and make rulings on plays outside on occasion. All right, so let's take a look at a situation. We've got a ball handle in the middle of the court right here. We've got a competitive matchup on this side of the lane and that side of the lane. We have an unengaged matchup over here in the lead, actually by the sideline, and we have another unengaged matchup over here. So we've got 3 engaged matchups and 2 unengaged matchups. Well, who's got the ball? That's going to be the trail official over here. Who's got this off-ball matchup here? That's going to be the center. So this lead has a choice. Are we going to choose this unengaged matchup here in the corner, or are we going to try to find the nearest one we can get? Obviously, the answer is right there. And if we're working as a crew, we have the 3 engaged matchups covered properly. Okay, those unengaged matchups are not going to hurt us right now. They could in a second, but not right now. That trail has no doubt they have to handle the ball handler, and that center, hopefully they're not ball watching, because I've seen situations like this where everybody's focused on the ball, and now we have off-ball activity. It's not being covered properly. So hopefully that shows you in a nutshell those concepts. You've got the lead of the primary coverage here, primary engaged matchup in their primary. They've got to take it. You have a center who has an engaged matchups right outside the edge of their primary, right at the edge. They've got to take it. They can't move into the secondary. Then you have a lead that has nothing, no engaged matchups in their primary coverage area. They're the ones that have to go to the secondary coverage area to make sure our game is covered properly. All right, so expanding in the secondary coverage area. This is in our manual. We put this right in about 4 years ago. Officials must be willing to assist partners to rule on off-ball contact in the secondary expanded coverage area when the ball is in the partner's PCA. When making rulings in the secondary coverage area, officials should be reminded to be late, be needed, and most importantly, be right. This is right in our manual. We put that in there and very intentionally. We want to break through that mindset that don't call in my area, stay in your area, let's stay focused. We want to make sure we're cultivating that teamwork. Now, there's a very important couple of words there. Officials must be willing to assist the partner rule off ball. We do not want you ruling across the gym on violations unless it's absolutely positively necessary. If someone gets screened, someone falls down, that's one thing. But if you're ruling across the court and you're looking on ball when there's all this off ball matchups that need to be covered, that's a real problem. So understand what you can do in that situation. And your mindset is this: if my partner has the ball in other competitive matches in PCA, how can I help? What can I do to take something off their plate? And if you have that mindset, it'll become very obvious what matchup you need to deal with. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be maybe high post screening activity. It's going to be situations where maybe there's a low post play across the lane. If there's a lot of activity, especially when your partner has the ball handler and a defender in another competitive matchup, that's where you come in to help. So hopefully you have that mindset and you can help out make that ruling when you. Now let's take a look at an example. If we have the lead accepting the ball in their PCA right here, and you are the trail official, what matchup are you going to spend your time with right now? As I look around the perimeter, I see the top of the lane area, I see an unengaged matchup. I look across the court, I see over the three-point arc, I see a play in the red, and I see a player backed off. I look at my own primary coverage area, I see an unengaged matchup. But then I look across the gym outside my area, and we've got low post play developing right here. That's a challenging play for the lead to have both those matchups at the same time. Okay, very challenging. So in this moment of choice, as a trail official, I can certainly help out. Maybe this player in white is illegally being that post player out of the lane. I can see that. Maybe there's a hold. Maybe the offensive player is wrapping around the defense with that right arm. That's tough for the lead to see. I can see that as trail. So those are perfectly acceptable rulings to make. And they're outside your area. They're right in front of the lead, but they're angles that you have that your lead doesn't have that can certainly help out. Identifying potential matchups. This is really an advanced officiating concept that we really need to get better at. I'm going to give you a little crew of two example here, but here's the approach. My first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get an open view of my current matchup. You always have to do that. That's a given. But what I want to do is I'm position adjusting to get my open view of the current matchup. I need to use my peripheral vision and be aware of the players and the matchups around me. So I identify potential matchups, but I also anticipate how plays may develop, and I anticipate my next position adjustment. I should have a plan in place. All right, I position adjust here, but what's my plan if this play develops the way I think it's going? Let's take a look at a crew of two example. What's the most important matchup for this trail to look at right now? Well, obviously, it's a crew of two. We've got a matchup in the midcourt area here. It needs to be covered. Doesn't have the greatest angle. He's got players in front of him. So you're going to work the arc here. You're going to work the arc, and you've got to get an angle. That's perfect. But where's the potential matchup? But where should you be anticipating? Much like the video we just saw, we got to ask ourselves right now, what if this ball reverses back toward me? If this ball reverses, guess what? I'm in a straight line view on that potential matchup. So I don't want to look at the back. So I need to anticipate when that ball gets passed back here, I've got a choice to make. All right. I can do one of two things. I can step out on the court and look back this way, or I can step down toward the end line and then get an angle that way. What we want to do, the decision you want to make at this very moment, is whatever the shortest distance to an open look is, we take. If it was 2 steps out to the right onto the court and it's 5 steps to get under, you go over and take that inside look. We want you to get an open matchup here. I'll get an open look. So you take the quickest route. Now, if you've got a 50-50 choice, if it's 2 steps to your right and 2 steps to your left, we really encourage you to get under this matchup. And what do we mean by that? As you can notice, if you look at the play on the left, look at this trail over here at the end on the sideline. This trail is closer to the end line than the ball handler. That's what we call getting under a matchup. If you're the trail out here by the division line, you're over the matchup. So basically, take the route that gets you the most effective way to that open angle as quick as possible. When in doubt, if you have a chance, it's 50-50, take the under the best you can. All right. Another important concept, I can't impress upon you enough, is we have officials that are kind of robotic, where what they'll do is they'll see the pass, they'll wait for the catch, and then make the adjustment. If we're doing it right and we've anticipated properly, you can use that passing activity to make the adjustment. You can actually be stepping down and getting an angle, or stepping over if you need to get an angle while that ball's in flight. That ball in flight's really not going to give you much trouble. Now, if we anticipate a steal here, if we see this is a bad pass, this is going to get picked off, we're going to make a decision, make a different decision, obviously. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that this is not a contested pass, I can use that passing activity as an opportunity to make position adjustments. Very important concept. But it starts in pregame. We need to cultivate that teamwork right from the start. Sometimes secondary coverage area is more important than primary. Understand when to observe the matchups in the secondary coverage area, and extend the coverage area off ball and make rulings when needed. Only when needed. We want those plays that they're game-changing plays if we don't get them right. The low-hanging fruit in officiating, as far as basketball is concerned, is improvement on off-ball fouling, off-ball contact. And we're missing a lot of it because we're not spending enough time helping out and taking those angles and expanding our coverage areas. Always remember to be late, be needed, be right. We call these the 3 Bs, and it's a very important concept to understand. You don't want to expand the secondary coverage area and be kind of sure. You want to be late about it, be needed, and you better be 100% right. We don't want you going across the gym to guess. So make sure you understand that concept as well. So let's talk about the lead a little bit. Initial starting position, whether it be crew of 2 or crew of 3, the decision is the same. And I can tell you from watching a lot of games, our leads are not making effective decisions. If the ball is wide, this is right in your manual. If you look at number 1 at the top of your screen, no matter if you're looking at left or right, if that ball is wide towards your sideline, you're going to start at the A position and be wide. If the ball's in the middle of the gym, you're going to make a decision. If they come up the midcourt, you're probably going to be somewhere between A and B, depending where the players are located. If the ball's on the opposite sideline, it is perfectly acceptable in transition for that lead to cut the corner and go directly to the B position. All right. This is a very important decision. I've seen many possessions over the last couple of years where the lead made an ineffective decision and it cost us an opportunity to see a play to the basket, especially in the low post. So try to make that decision as effective as possible. And I think you'll find that you have a lot more open looks on drives to the basket and low post play, especially in that early offense. Let's take a look at this concept. The ball is wide. The ball's in the front court. We want our lead wide. Okay. If the ball moves to the midcourt, we want our lead position, we want our lead officials to do what we call close down. When we close down toward the lane, that's what we talk about right here. So get down towards D. When the ball goes across basket line, whether this be crew of 2 or crew of 3, you have the opportunity to move across the lane. Now, in crew of 3, we call this a rotation. In a crew of 2, we call this going ball side. So, but the decision and the concept are exactly the same. Now, we have this graphic in our manual that says the ball keys the rotation. So typically, the way the play develops, this ball is going to be a huge indicator whether we're going to go A, B, or C. In the crew of 2, you'll see in our crew of 2 manual, and we compare that to the crew of 3 manual, the concept is exactly the same. If you look at the stuff on the left, that's our ball side mechanics in crew of 2. And you'll notice the concept I was just talking about is what's driving the decision. If you look at the left-hand side of your screen, on the left side of the court, what you have there is a ball being reversed toward the trail. The trail made the decision to step out onto the court and officiate that matchup looking down, being over. But the lead recognizing, look at that, it's an off-ball post play right there. I need to help. And so that caused that ball side mechanic. So now the lead and the trail on the same side, the lead's got an open angle on that matchup, okay? If you look on the right-hand side of that screen, right here, okay, this lead made a decision for a different reason. He came across the lane because there's screens developing. You've got a trail to the ball-handed defender. This lead can rotate or come ball side and help out on this activity here, okay? Two very important concepts. On the right-hand side, this is your typical rotation using the ABC, all right? The ball, we don't show it here, but the ball's wide, he's in A position, ball's in the midcourt level, he comes to B, and if he makes the decision to rotate, that causes the center to become new trail, and it causes the trail to become new center. So those are the same concepts on both sides. Get familiar with those because it's the same decision. Working the lead, both crew of 2, crew of 3 have a lot of similarities, and some of those matchups we just talked about are what's driving those decisions. So the ball's a key, but so is off ball. Some of those matchups we just saw are going to drive that decision. Again, how can I help? And if I'm the lead official, I don't need to necessarily expand to my secondary. I can actually rotate or go ball side and get across there and get a good look at those plays. Now, we do have an exception. The lead should be very aware. We have a lot of lead officials who work the end line very robotically. Oh, the ball went across basket line, they automatically close down. Oh, the ball's in the corner, they automatically go across. They give no thought to anything else that's going on. Very important concept. The lead should not leave or close down if there are any active competitive matchups within their PCA. Even if the ball crosses the basket line, they should continue to monitor these players regardless of ball location. If and when this matchup is resolved or moves outside the PCA, the lead then can continue across the lane and go ball side or initiate a rotation. So the ball does key the rotation, but it's not the only key. We have to understand the exceptions. If you've got active engaged matchups, especially if you're in a crew of two, they're not going to be covered any other way. So if you get off ball, don't feel like you have to robotically go across the lane. Stay with your competitive matchups in the PCA and don't rotate away from those matchups. We also have another very important concept: rotation initiated but not completed. We've all been in that situation where we start across the rotation, we get making a good decision, then the ball reverses, or the ball a try is in flight. You don't need to complete a bad rotation, okay? This graphic is one of the most important graphics in the lead section. We have seen over the last couple of years so many times where people are completing rotations when your center and trails are preoccupied with other activity, okay? Your center and trail need to know where you are if a ball's in flight on the try. If I'm the center official, I've got certain responsibilities from my jump shooter to a rebounding activity, and it can really screw up a crew if you're rotating while the ball in flight. I may have the thought in my head, I may be center, I've got something activity, I look, and next thing you know, the lead's on my side. And what you have is you've got three officials looking at each other like, what's going to happen? So we have to have our lead officials make good decisions here. Let's show this through a graphic here. I want you to watch this lead official on this play. The lead official's across the court right there. She's being highlighted. The ball is wide. The ball is right there. The ball reverses to the midcourt area. She makes a great decision, closes down. The ball gets reversed. She's halfway across the lane. Then the young lady attempts to try. Look what she did. She went right back to where she came from. Very important concept, what we added a few years ago. We basically are saying in our manual, if a try is in flight and that lead cannot get across that lane, you see the yellow line there, if they can't get across that line before that ball's in flight, they're to go back to where they are. If all three officials are aware of this concept, none of them have to worry about where the lead is. They're going to know exactly where the lead is when this play transpires. So very important concept. If she got across that line, then a try went up, she can stay on that side of the court. But we kind of defined in our manual what we consider an initial rotation being completed is getting across that line before. Same token, if a drive to the basket happens, or if the ball gets reversed, okay? Again, you don't need to complete that bad rotation. If you're not there and the crew is better off with you being on the other side of the lane, by all means go back. So don't be afraid to avoid a bad rotation. Very important concept. Now, one thing we've seen over the last few years, we have some officials that absolutely, positively fall in love with the B position. When they get to the B, it's like they're stuck in quicksand. And we have officials that spend most of their night right in this position. That is a huge problem. It can put our crews in really tough positions, no matter if it's crew of two or crew of three. Let's take a look at some situations. If the ball's in the midcourt area and comes back here, this is the position adjustment we're not making. I bet you 75% of the time we're not doing this. We're staying right in B, okay? This is a real problem because what happens is for that lead to accept the ball in the wing, this is what they got to do. Now, in a crew of two, let's just say this is a crew of two, you have no access to the lane here, okay? In crew of three, you might be a little better off. You get two other officials in the gym, but you got a trail on that side. If you're gonna look, you're gonna be ball watching in front of your partner. So really, what we want to see is we're gonna set the ball into our PCA. We're gonna get wide. Now, if a dribbler comes into our PCA, I can still see the lane. I still have opportunities to get at this off-ball activity in the lane here. And it's going to become hugely important when we talk about block charge in a minute. So we don't want to see you working in the B position, looking toward the sideline. That's one of those cardinal sins we look for as observers. We don't want you to turn your shoulders away from the lane. The lead official should have an angle toward the lane at almost all times. There's very few times where the lead will not have some kind of view of the lane. They need to learn how to anticipate. And most of your defenders are going to come from that activity. So you've got to have that angle to make sure you're effective. All right. So now we put this in the manual. This is something that people have not been quick to embrace. But let's just say, for argument's sake, due to ball rotation, you find yourself in the B position. Like that young lady just showed us the other minute ago, when the try goes up, you move away. Well, if you're in the B position, okay, and the try goes up, it's not a bad idea to take a couple steps toward the sideline and maybe even get some depth. Okay, why would we do that? If you get a little bit of depth and a little bit of an angle, you're increasing that cone of vision to see the lane. Okay, you're going to have to take a look at that lane and see where are my active matchups, who's my most problematic matchups, and you're going to be much better at that with a wider view. I kind of equate it to taking a family photo. If you're trying to get a lot of people in the picture, do you get up close to it or do you back up? The more you back up with that camera, the more you get into that that horizontal cone of vision. Okay, you can increase it this way vertically and horizontally. It's going to give you that chance. But we also added this. If there's a drive to the basket on the lead side of the lane, we encourage you to take a step or two wide and get an angle as well. Okay, so try in the air or drive to the basket. We want you to take that position adjustment just a little bit wide. This is a little exaggerated because the court's a little small. My officials are a little bigger than scale. It's not quite this drastic. It's probably a step or two, but get wide and get an angle toward the lane. All right, let's talk about one of the most important concepts that a lead needs to concern themselves with: secondary defenders. The lead official, this is by manual, the lead official is responsible for identifying potential secondary defenders in anticipation of block charge plays. When a player drives to the basket, the lead official has primary coverage for plays in the lane when it involves a secondary defender. That entire lane is the leads. You have a trail and two person, you have center and trail three. Their job is to see the initial drive, get activity out by the perimeter. Once the play gets in the lane and involves secondary defender, the lead has to have a look. And if they're inefficient by like what we just saw a minute ago, they're not going to be able to get this play right. Here's how it looks like. You have a secondary defender right here. You have a primary matchup, primary defender. You have a secondary defender right here. As this player begins to drive, this secondary defender steps up and takes the charge. This lead has to be prepared to see where this defender came from and get that play right. Same token, crew of three. Doesn't matter what side of the lane you're on. As the play drives to the basket, if you've got a secondary defender, that leader is responsible for identifying the secondary defender and making this ruling. Now, it should be important to note that when these drives happen, wherever the drive originates, whether it be the center or the trail, they're going to be primarily responsible for the contact on the way to the basket. Once the contact happens at the basket, the lead's going to have priority over that. But if you have a hand check on the way, or you got a push off along the way, we're going to have those outside officials stay attached to that drive, and the lead's going to focus on that next defender and have the opinion on the guarding position of the secondary defender. One of the primary purposes of this guidelines is to cut down on double whistles on these plays. We've all heard those horror stories of those situations where we got to go with a double foul. We can reduce the number of double whistles, and we certainly can use proper side of foul procedures to try to cut down on those plays and make sure we're not making mistakes in this play. Let's take a look at a video clip. When you look at this play, one of the first things you notice is look where the lead official is positioned, and look where the ball is. Is he looking toward the lane or is he looking toward the sideline? Okay, and what problem does that create? Looking toward the sideline, secondary defender, he's not looking at the secondary defender at all. Next thing you know, we got a collision and he rules a blocking foul. How many people agree with that ruling? Now, let's play that again. How many people agree that this is a blocking foul? This defender comes across the lane, appears to have 2 feet on the floor, looks in a pretty good vertical position, and gets hit. All right? I think that might be player control. Like we just talked about, the lead does not need to concern. I mean, it's a crew of three, so we have the luxury here. Crew of three, I know I've got a trail on my sideline. This trail is going to worry about the hand check by 15 red. He's going to worry about maybe the push off by the ball handler in the basket. This lead now has the luxury of looking defender to defender and spending the time, where are my potential secondary defenders? Who is my potential matchup that can cause me a problem? This lead right now should have this player right here in his sights and this player right here. This one's a little bit of a long shot far away. But this lead better have a sight on these potential defenders and anticipate the possible collision. If he does that, I think we have a different ruling on this play as it develops. This looks like player control. The next thing that we just talked about, look at the difference in angle. Okay, this is the original position. This is the approved position. If you have a drive to the basket on the other side of the basket line, good idea to take a step or two toward the sideline and look back through. You're gonna have a much better angle in this play. I hope that makes sense. But that's really in a nutshell the kind of concept we're trying to get through. All right, now in accrue 2, we don't have that luxury of that trail staying with the defender. So this is a little more challenging. But this official does a remarkable job of recognizing I got to get wide. And he's looking toward the lane. He at least has a shot at seeing that secondary defender. Again, he's got the added complexity of the possible contact and violations on the basket, but he makes an excellent position adjustment, and he gives himself the best chance to get this play right. If he officiated this play from the B position, this play is going to look a lot different. If you look here, his original position when this play started was down here. Okay, this play is going to look completely different. If he's looking this way, he's got no shot to see that secondary defender. Very important concept to master as a new lead. Here's a cardinal sin. This is something we see all the time. We accrue a 3. This guy's got the luxury. Let's watch the lead down here at the end line. What does he do? The ball is wide. Okay, look where he's looking. Do we need him there? Do we need the investment from the lead official to look at the ball here? Well, he's got a trail right there. How about we let the trail take care of that? Do you think the trail can handle it? He's really got nothing else to worry about at this point in time. So what should the lead be doing? Watch this play develop. He actually gets this play right. I'm not sure how well he sees it. He gets the play right. But man, wouldn't it be better if he had done this? Wouldn't this have been better officiating? Recognize the pass to the sideline, get wide, and anticipate where the potential collision could be. This is going to improve your officiating. I can guarantee you, if you master this concept, you will get a higher percentage of these plays correct around the basket. So identify secondary defenders, make position adjustments. If you're the lead, stay facing the lane. Even if the ball's wide, that doesn't mean you can't look back toward the lane. You can get wide. Now as number 2 comes into the primary coverage area, when we had the NBA a couple years ago, it was one of the most fascinating presentations we had. We had Al Batista, Joey Crawford, and Mark Wunderlich. They called this lengthening the play. I watched a documentary a few weeks ago on Derek Jeter, and he talked about how in pressure situations the game would slow down for him. This is a situation where officials can slow the play down for themselves, because what will happen is if they're looking at this play from the wide position, they're going to lengthen that play, and it's going to make it easier for them to make this ruling. If I can't get my PowerPoint back. Oh, yeah. All right. All right. Can someone confirm that they're seeing my screen still?
We are not seeing your screen, TJ.
All right. Something just happened. Bear with me 1 second here. All right. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
All
All
set.
right. There you go. Technology. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. Hopefully you get that concept down. Get wide, get the length of the play, and that will slow that play down. Something else we want to guard against. We do not want you in the lane. This official makes an accurate ruling, but look at the position. Okay, we don't want, like some levels I hear about pinching the paint, getting in the lane, but he actually is pretty straight line in the original positioning. It's like right to the defender's back. We'd rather have you in the B position, taking that step toward the sideline and look back through and get that angle. We don't know. I mean, you can here we're taking things for granted. What if this player in green extended their arms and pushed before they picked the contact? There may be a foul before this foul, so we want to get a better angle and not just guess at this play. So make sure you stay wide and not work in the paint or in the lane area. Let's equate some of these concepts to pass crash coverage. Pass crash coverage. This is something that Dan Shepson presented a few years ago at Cape Cod. We thought it was gold and we put it into our manual. Basically, regardless if it's crew of 2 or crew of 3, we're going to use the direction of the pass as how we're going to dictate coverage in the free throw lane area. If the ball is passed toward an official, that official is responsible for the player receiving the ball and potential defenders. In other words, pass. If the ball is passed away from the official, that official is responsible for the passer and the defender. In other words, the crash. Let's take a look at some of these plays. We have a player heading toward the lane. This is a crew of 2 situation. Which way did the pass go to? It went toward the trail. The trail takes the pass. The lead takes the crash. Okay. We have the opposite situation. Crew of 2. Pass goes toward the lead. The lead takes the pass. Trail takes the crash. Very simple concept. A little easier to discuss and as a practical applied in the game. This can become very challenging in a game. So this is something we have to kind of get in our mind now while we're off the court and kind of get this ingrained in our head so we can apply it correctly, because it's very hard sometimes to have a player right in front of you and not look at it. And these crew of 2 plays, sometimes there's a crash right at your feet, but the pass is in your primary. You got to look away and take that pass. It's not an easy concept. That's how we can effectively cover these plays. Same thing at crew of 3. Pass toward the center. Center takes the pass. Lead takes the crash. Now, if this play happens to be in the high post area by the free throw line, certainly the trail can get involved immediately. If it's in the lane, the first crack is usually the lead. Same token, if the ball is toward the trail and away from the center, the trail is going to take the pass, center takes the crash. Very important concepts. Hopefully you're covering this in pregame. We try to simplify this as much as possible. That direction of the pass really dictates our primary coverage. That doesn't say, we didn't say exclusive coverage, okay? Sometimes there are exceptions to these plays, but in general rule of thumb, if we can apply the mechanics this way, the flow mechanics this way, we're going to be better off in the long run. Let's take a look at this play. This is a crew of 2 situation. Drive to the basket, and we have a crash. Anybody notice what was wrong with this play? When this drive to the basket happened, we had both officials focused right here. Did anybody happen to notice what happened just after the crash? Did you notice this jump shooter right here? Did you notice that the ball happened to go in? Now, I'm going to give the trail a tremendous amount of credit on this play. He uses proper foul procedures. He stops the clock. He doesn't give a preliminary signal. And it's a good thing because that lead comes flying out of there very quickly. Doesn't give a stop the clock signal and just points the other direction. Now, what if these 2 officials got together and decided this was a blocking foul? Do you think this crew has a good idea where the ball was before the foul? What if continuous motion was in play here? I mean, we obviously can see that it doesn't because we see this try as clearly after the contact. But if we don't cover this play properly, we may be missing an important element of this play. This ball goes in. This could be an important part of the game. Could be an important play. Make sure we understand where that play of the ball is. The only way we can cover this effectively is make sure we understand those principles we just talked about. Someone's got to see that play of the ball. Here's another crew of 2 play. Believe it or not, based on our principles, the trail has first crack at this contact right here. Look at the proximity of the contact to the lead. How hard is it going to be for the lead to let the trail have the first shot at it? Now, I want to make it perfectly clear. That doesn't mean the lead can't rule on it. There's situations, maybe the trail gets blocked, maybe they can't see. This lead does a pretty good job of looking at this play and then taking a look to the sideline and see where the shooter is. If you understand some of the concepts we talked about earlier, the lead probably could have positioned just a little bit to the right on the pass, but they do a pretty good job covering this play. Some debate whether the player knocked the defender down or might have got tripped by this play here. But bottom line is, even though the contact is right in front of the lead, sometimes that's going to be the trail's responsibility. So try to talk about that in pregame and try to make sure you master those concepts. Let's talk about perimeter coverage real quick. Something we haven't talked about a lot, making the decision of over or under. I want to just give you some quick guidelines on how to do that. We'll start with the center official in crew of 3. The home base for the center official is pretty much free throw line extended. That's your home base. If you draw a line from that free throw line extended, I should say, excuse me, that's initial starting position. I should use that term. You draw a straight line from the free throw line extended to the sideline. That's your initial starting position. But use that imaginary line to help you make that decision between over or under. If you're in a situation where you've got a ball handler and a defender above that line, that's an indicator you go under the matchup. Take the 1 or 2 steps down and go under the matchup. If you've got a matchup that's a couple of steps below that line, that's an indication you may need to go above. We really, as a center official, don't want you down farther than maybe 1 step into the lane, for 1 lane space. We really want you around that free throw line extended. I've seen officials way down here and being aggressive and trying to get under something like that. That's way too far, because what's going to happen is this kind of matchup might key a rotation, and next thing you know, we have a lead and center very close to one another. So try to use this free throw line extended as basically where your activity is going to be. Now, obviously, I've seen this a ton. We'd rather in a crew of 3 not have you make this kind of maneuver. I saw this a ton last year with the matchups here, and the center went on the court kind of like a crew of 2 and a trail of crew of 2, and get the matchup this way. If you can get the open look by just a step or 2 down, take that view and stay off the court. Try to stay sideline oriented. Our centers and trails in crew of 3 really want you oriented toward the sideline and make those maneuvers along that as much as possible. In a center official, their activity is pretty much between 1 lane space down and the hash mark. This is where your activity is going to mostly be at center. We don't want you on the court unless you absolutely have to be. There's a couple of situations that's perfectly acceptable on the court. If the ball's in the corner and you want to get an angle, perfectly acceptable step or 2 on the court and look down through that. That's an acceptable decision. We also, if the ball's in the midcourt area, we really don't want you above the hash mark as much as possible. This is a situation where you get under it, and what you're probably doing 9 times out of 10, if you have this matchup here, a trapping situation, you might even be initiating a rotation here as a center. So make sure you get an open angle. Try to stay underneath that matchup best you can, and hopefully the lead recognizes that, comes across. It may help you out to become trail on this play. But though that should help you out as far as the center position is going over or under. Let's take a look at the trail of crew of 3. A trail of crew of 3, their initial starting position is probably the 28-foot mark. That's where we kind of want you to base your activity out of. The range of your activity is probably down to the free throw line in some situations, and probably as deep as the division line. Those are the 2 points where you're going to be doing most of your activity. But in a crew of 3, again, we want you sideline oriented. So we're going to use that line to make the decision. If the matchup's above the line, go ahead and get under. Okay, take that step or 2 to get under. If the matchup is below the line, go ahead and go above it and get the angle. If the ball is in the corner, by all means, step out of the court and officiate that activity. So hopefully that helps as far as crew of 3 is concerned. Let's bounce to the crew of 2. That'll wrap this up in the next few minutes here. Crew of 2, a little bit different. The trail of crew of 2 might be a little more aggressive than the crew of 3. They may go down under the free throw line, maybe a step or 2. The difference between the crew of 2 is we also have the working the arc activity. So you have between those 2 points, you also have working the arc. Let's see here. I don't have it. Okay. All right, so there it is, crew of 2. So crew of 2, you also have working the arc. Not a big deal. So the crew of 2 is much more apt to get on the court than the crew of 3 trail official. As far as going over under, trail again, let's use that free throw line extended. We'll let you have 1 or 2 steps below the free throw line. Okay, get underneath that matchup. If it's below that line, by all means go over. That's probably a typical position adjustment you're going to have. And if it's in the corner, don't be afraid to step on the court. One of the big differences you're going to have in a crew of two trail is this: as this ball moves around the perimeter, there will be times when that ball reverses to the sideline. We are already going to be inside. Maybe you're dealing with a matchup across the basket line. As you rotate back, as you wrap back, perfectly acceptable to get this angle toward the sideline. If it only takes you a step or two to get this open look, by all means, take an open look. All right. But we definitely do not want this. When you watch our game throughout our country, we see this far, far too often. The trail official hanging out by the division line and just staying behind ball handlers and shooters. So we want to make sure you get active and get out of those matchups. All right, let's take a look at one thing. Crew of two trail. This is a trail that accepts a straight line position. She's directly behind the try. We had passing activity here. What if during that passing activity, she took a couple steps down and got here? Free throw line extended underneath that matchup. Now that defender, as they run toward the offensive player, we're going to have a much better angle between offense and defense. Let's just see that one more time. Very good. Let's see this. This is what it looks like. Straight line. And would much rather have you not accept that straight line position, but work hard, anticipate that play with the passing activity, and then need the basket. Donnie, I think I've been 57 minutes. I think I'm going to stop it right there.
Yes, outstanding, TJ. We
right.
appreciate everything, and we're looking forward to a successful fall seminar beginning on Thursday, and hopefully we'll see a lot of people there. So everybody, thank you for participating, and have a good night. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, folks.